Welcome back, my friends. Looking forward to talking to you today about the further drama of Jacob and Laban and how Laban accuses Jacob and goes on a searching expedition. But how nervous Jacob's family must have been, especially Rachel. Find out why on today's episode.
Welcome to Everyday Truth with Kurt Skelly. We believe the Bible is true and relevant to everyone, everywhere, every day. If today's conversation is a help to you, take a moment to leave a review or share it with a friend. Thanks for listening. Now, let's join Kurt for today's episode.
Hello there, friends. Welcome back. We are in Genesis 31, quite a long chapter here, 55 verses, but we are in the middle of a really intriguing story. Jacob has been told by God, it's time to go back to the land of promise. But Jacob, I think, has a bit of fear, still has a bit of that manipulation that's hardwired in him. So he meets with his wives privately, says, we've got to go back. And he gets all the family together, all the livestock, and he leaves in the middle of the night. You can't make this stuff up. And Laban doesn't know about it. Laban finds out a couple days later. He's mad. He's as mad as a hornet. He gets his team together, and they chase after them. So now Jacob is making his way toward Mount Gilead. Laban is hot on his trail, and he finally catches up to Jacob at Mount Gilead, and now he confronts him. Jacob, why? Why have you left me? Why have you left in the middle of the night? You took my daughters as if they were prisoners of war. What's going on? Now remember, God has met with Laban. God met with Jacob. Jacob, you go. And now God has met with Laban, said Laban, don't speak good or bad to Jacob. Just go interact with him, and we're going to learn something now, aren't we? So God is orchestrating. God's in control. Neither one of the people involved, Jacob or Laban, is acting entirely right, and yet God is moving his plan forward. Look at verse number 27. Wherefore, this is Laban speaking, why, we would say today, wherefore why did you flee away secretly and steal away from me, and didst not tell me that I might have sent thee away with mirth and with songs and with tabret and with harp? Jacob, why this secrecy? Why did you just leave in the middle of the night? We could have had a going away party. I could have said my proper goodbyes to my daughters and to my grandkids, and you've done all of this surreptitiously. I mean, what is happening? Verse 28, and hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters? Thou hast now done foolishly in so doing. So, all of that is true. Now, should Jacob have left? Yes, God told him to leave. Did Jacob leave in part because of the turmoil that was happening with Laban, and Laban could no longer look at Jacob in an honest way, and Laban was being manipulated by his own sons, and Jacob was being criticized? All that was true. And yet what Laban is saying is true as well. They can both be true at the same time. And it says in verse number 29, it is in the power of my hand to do you hurt. Jacob, do you understand that what you've done, physically speaking, is dangerous? I have more power than you. I could do something about this if I wanted to. I mean, I could hurt you. I could physically take back my daughters and my grandchildren. I can physically take back my possessions, these livestock that you've taken. It is in my power to do you hurt, but, and I love this, but the God of your father spake unto me yesternight, saying, take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now, though thou wouldst needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? So interesting that in 2 verses, we see submission from Laban to God. Jacob, I could get you right now. I could really make this hard on you. But God, your God, appeared to me and said not to. So Laban has enough respect for God to say no, but Laban is still struggling with his own lack of faith. Why? Because he says, but you've taken my gods. Okay, your God spoke to me, and I'm going to respect him, but you've taken my gods. Remember, Rachel had taken those idols, those images from Laban. So this is really revealing a double heart in Laban, that Laban respects God. He understands the authority of God, but he is not following God. It reminds me a lot of that verse in James chapter 2, where the Bible says the devils also believe and tremble, but they don't really believe in the fact of putting their heart's faith and trust in God. So here's Laban, who has a respect for, an acknowledgement of God, even obedience to, in some ways, God, but not a wholehearted, single-minded devotion to God. How dangerous. So it says in verse 31, and Jacob answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid. And there is a moment of great honesty for Jacob. Well, why, Jacob, did you do it the way you did it? Now, was Jacob ostensibly obeying God when he left to go back to the land of promise? Yes. Yes, he was, because God had told him to leave. So it wasn't what Jacob was doing that was wrong. It was how Jacob was doing it that was wrong, because he was doing it with a lack of faith. He was doing it not telling Laban. He was doing it deceptively. He was doing it in fear. And here, Jacob admits that. I was afraid, he says in verse 31. For I said, peradventure thou wouldst take by force thy daughters from me. I feared what you might do. I feared that you would not allow me to take your daughters, even though I've paid my dowry, even though they officially have been given to me. I was afraid. I didn't trust you. Verse 32, and really, let's go back to that for a moment. And really, what is that a tacit admission to? That's an admission that he didn't really believe God fully, because God said, Jacob, you go and I will be with you. But Jacob said, but I was afraid, because I thought, well, maybe Laban will take my wives from me. In other words, I believe God, but I don't know that I really believe God. I've got to kind of help God out with my manipulation here. So Jacob, in many respects, is still behaving the way he behaved with the birthright and with the blessing. Here in verse 32, with whomsoever thou findest thy gods, let him not live. Before our brethren discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee, for Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. So Jacob now says something really rash and potentially very damaging, because he says, Laban, I was afraid, but I know I didn't steal anything from you. I didn't steal your idols. And if anybody did steal from you, whoever that person is, I didn't endorse it. You have my right to take their life. Now, this reminds me a little bit of Jephthah, who made this vow, not realizing that that vow would involve his own daughter. Remember the story of Jephthah? Well, here's a vow that Jacob is making, and he doesn't realize that this implicates his own wife, his favored wife, Rachel, because she's the one that stole. So he puts her into grave jeopardy here, doesn't he? So be careful the things that you promise without knowing all the information. And it says in verse 33 that Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the two maidservants' tents, but he found them not. Then went he out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. You can only imagine just how nervous Rachel was at this moment. Now Rachel had taken the images and put them in the camel's furniture. So what that means is the accoutrements of the camel, the saddle, maybe the saddle bag, that kind of thing. And she sat upon them. So she's in the tent, and she's sitting on the cattle bag, sitting on the camel bag. And the Bible says, and Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And she said to her father, let it not displease my Lord that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. She was having her time of the month, and he searched but found not the images. So here's Rachel, and she's being deceptive, isn't she? And for her own life. It says, I really can't get up right now because I'm going through this time and it would be an unclean thing. And so dad says, okay, and she gets away with it. So what do we see? We see God moving, we see God protecting, but we also see all these human deficiencies in Laban, in Jacob, in Rachel. And wow, when you see the story of how God advances his kingdom, how God advances his promises, he does so with flawed people, doesn't he? And yet, what is the unflawed element of the story? The unflawed element of the story is the promises of God. They're always true. The protection of God, it's always true. The provisions of God are always there. And the one thing that we see as the backdrop to all of the human drama of the patriarchs is the wonderful, foundational, never-changing plan and promise of God. Look at verse number 36. We'll kind of end here. And Jacob was wroth and chode with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, what is my trespass? What is my sin that thou hast so hotly pursued after me? So now Jacob feels like he has the upper hand. Oh, you've searched. You've told me I've stolen something. I haven't. Well, but he had. Rachel had. And now Jacob kind of takes umbrage and says, why are you chasing me? And, I have no right to be searched, and I have no right to be chased, and I have every right to lead my family. And, I have all the things I have, I earned. So Jacob is taking some umbrage here. Interesting how Jacob is mad when somebody is trying to take what is his. Isn't that interesting? And yet Jacob is one that has taken what other people rightfully owned. So it's interesting how we get mad when it happens to us. We get mad when I see David in this story, right? David was so mad when he heard that story about Nathan and the sheep, not realizing that he was the one that was the thief. Verse number 37, whereas thou hast searched all my stuff, what hast thou found of all thy household stuff? Set it here before my brethren and thy brethren, that they may judge betwixt us both. This 20 years have I been with thee. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of thy flock have I not eaten. That which was torn of beasts I brought not unto thee. I bear the loss of it. Of my hand thou didst require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was. In the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and thy sleep departed from mine eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I've served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, 6 years for thy cattle. Thou hast changed my wages 10 times, except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, the fear of Isaac, had been with me. Surely thou hadst sent me away now empty. God hath seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. Boy, all of a sudden, Jacob is brave. And Jacob is saying, Laban, you've done me wrong. Time and time again, I've been honest. I've taken a loss. I've worked hard. I've earned it. I'm following God. And the fact that I'm being protected and the fact that I'm being blessed is all due to him. So it's almost like it took this episode in Jacob's life to put him to a place where he realized, you know what? I'm sick and tired of deceiving. I'm sick and tired of doing things in the middle of the night or being afraid. I'm just going to say what's true and tell Laban what it is, and I'm going to give the honor and the credit and the glory to God. And that's exactly what happens here. Now, how does all that pan out? We're going to find out on the next episode as we finish the chapter. So we'll stop right there for now. Appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time. God bless you, my friends.